In 1951, during the Indochina War, the French were led by General Jean de la Treille de Tassigny, who was highly regarded both by his French subordinates and his Viet Minh adversaries, who had been described as the French Douglas MacArthur, as he was a seasoned leader in World War I, the Rift War, World War II, and had earned some of the French victories in Indochina against the Viet Minh and the brilliant Vietnamese General Giap. Giap had rose to prominence during World War II as the military leader of the Viet Minh resistance against the Japanese occupation, and after the war he led anti-colonial forces in the First Indochina War. During the war, he transformed a disorganized band of rebels to a fine light infantry army, fielding cartography, cryptography, artillery, and advanced logistics capable of challenging the larger and more modernized French Far East Expeditionary Corps and the Vietnamese National Army. At the Battle of Vinh Nguyen in January of 1951, de la Treille had defeated 2 Viet Minh divisions totaling 20,000 men under Giap's personal command. He personally took charge of the outnumbered French forces, flying in reinforcements and mustering every available aircraft for airstrikes against the massive Viet Minh formations. Giap retreated after 3 fierce days of combat that killed 6,000 and wounded 8,000 Viet Minh troops. De la Treille had anticipated Giap's attacks and had reinforced French defenses with hundreds of cement blockhouses and new airfields. After suffering a heavy setback in the Battle of Vinh Nguyen, Giap then decided to attack the port of Haiphong and the centerpiece of French logistics. Giap planned to breach the French defenses at Mao Khe, which was about 20 miles north of the port. He had hoped that the fresh 316th Viet Minh Division, supported by divisionary attacks from the 304th and 320th, would be enough to break the French. As Mao Khe was poorly defended, it was encircled by a series of outposts, with the town itself held by an armored car platoon of the Moroccan colonial infantry. The Mao Khe coal mine was also located 1,000 meters to the north of the town, and was garrisoned by a company of partisans commanded by a Vietnamese lieutenant and 3 French NCOs. To the east of the town, a company from the 30th Senegalese Composition Battalion guarded a fortified Roman Catholic church, and in total the French had about 400 troops to defend the town. After diversionary thrusts on March 23rd, the Viet Minh began to assail Mao Khe's outposts later in the night. They had carried all major positions by March 26th and prepared for the main attack onto the city. At this point, the anticipated communist attack stalled under heavy pressure from French naval forces, which had managed to approach Mao Khe via a deep channel, and the Viet Minh losses were about 30 KIA and 80 WIA as the French Navy began to bombard the area. De la Treille was uncertain about Giap's intentions, but he did send the 6th Colonial Parachute Battalion and some artillery batteries to relieve the beleaguered forces at Mao Khe. Early in the morning on the 27th, the Viet Minh 209th Regiment of the 312th Division launched a massive attack against the coal mine, whose defenders resisted until French B-26 bombers alleviated the pressure. After exhausting their ammunition, the partisans beat a skillful retreat to Mao Khe, and the Viet Minh losses were 46 more KIA, 209 wounded in action, and 14 MIAs. At 2 a.m. on March 28th, the Viet Minh opened up a torrent of artillery and mortar fire against the town. The 36th Regiment launched a number of mass infantry assaults, which were repulsed by well-emplaced French artillery. The Viet Minh eventually entered the town, and a bloody hand-to-hand combat confrontation began. Although the momentum of the attack had petered out, the Viet Minh later withdrew in the morning with 58 killed in action and a further 137 wounded. After the battle, the 6th Parachute Battalion fought valiantly on various sectors of the battlefront, and on March 30th, 1951, the battalion resisted an enemy force of 4 times larger for an entire night. Following 5 hours of hand-to-hand combat, the battalion then endured the loss of 51 men and 97 wounded. At Mao Khe, casualties had been light for the French, with around 40 killed in action, 150 wounded, and the Viet Minh suffered 3,000 casualties by French estimates. Vietnamese figures are about 150 killed in action and 426 wounded in action. However, Vietnamese figures have been known to be very skewed. Although the French had been victorious, Giap's losses were not nearly as bad at Vinh Nguyen 2 months previously. Giap would then make another unsuccessful attempt to breach the French lines in late May at the same town. Although de la Treille had again defeated Giap, who had underestimated de la Treille's army's abilities to deploy naval guns and to move reinforcements aboard assault boats on deep canals, However, his son Bernard was killed in action in the battle for Nam Dinh in late May 1951, as Bernard had obeyed his father's orders to hold the town at all costs against 3 Viet Minh divisions. And that is the Battle of Mao Khe during the Indochina War. Did you know about it before this video? What other parts of the First Indochina War would you like for me to cover? Write in the comments, and thank you for watching.